and all these things. So, being around her and being able to see how powerful she was and all that, had all the aunties. And that's what I realized this last year, especially. It was crazy how there's so many things in my journey I realized of how I lost my connection in different parts was, as a kid, I had all the aunties who would come to my house with my mom. All the Jadas, they're called Jadas. They'd sit there and weave and laugh and loud ass freaking Haida women. They're even louder than all, I don't know, they're just loud. And they're all 5'9", my mom was 5'9", right? Haidas are big people. They're big people. The women are big too. So big, loud laughs, right? Yeah. And they'd be on the porch and there and smoke their cigarettes, laugh real loud, come inside, weave, bead. But I just grew up around these just freaking mean, strong women who were out there doing all the work. They would go hunting, they would go fishing. And when I remember as I grew up, a lot of them started going down the wrong paths, really, falling into addiction. So I realized that's what I was really missing all of those really crucial years from 15 years old moving on to my 20s, right, was that council of aunties. Not the women that were in my life, because I had a lot of women, influential figures, but the council of aunties I could go home and sit at home with. Because my house, I never wanted to go home because of all the things that happened to me as a kid. That's also why I was able to suppress all the traumas, because I literally never went home. 14, I'd come to Edgecombe. As soon as I'd get done at Edgecombe, I'd be home for a week and a half. I'd be traveling the whole entire summer playing basketball. And it was like that every year. Then once I got into college, same thing. Summer school, camps. I just never wanted to go home, And once I went home, that's when I started turning all over these rocks, right? So just being able to, be around that my whole life as a young kid, that's what kept me, quote unquote, in line. And when you don't have that, it's hard, A lot of men don't have that. There's a lot of different complex things that have happened that make it difficult if if we're not even having a conversation. That's the first part, is we have to have the conversation before there's all these circles.
And every day I work, searching for the inner peace. What's my life like? Sitting in reflection, brush away the
What do you think the role of women, what role do they play, in this healing of men's health and wellness?
It's encouragement, encouraging them to heal, but like I said, holding them accountable, but doing their work. That's a big part of it too. It's you can't expect men to do their work if you're not doing your own internal work, even if you don't think you have internal work to do, because there's a lot of people out there, both men and women, who are successful and look good, but they don't have their stuff together, and they do a lot of things behind closed doors that aren't good, right? So at the end of the day, it's we all need to be having conversations and doing our work. So if we want to support men better, have those conversations so that you could get rid of traumas, have tough conversations about things that have happened to you as men, and think about the things that you actively carry on when you're engaging with other men. Just like men should actively think about what poor ways have I engaged with women, so that when I move forward, I could, same thing with women. How can you guys have the conversation of, okay, what poor things have happened to me, and the things that have happened, how do we get past that so that I could meet and encourage the men to actively heal. I think that's it. It has to be encouraging and understanding and listening. Sit down and listen to people's stories. Don't, like I said, no, finger pointing. We have to sit down. Everyone has to be open to sitting down and having conversations about the things that have happened and listening to men's stories, because I think that's it. Because there has to be more time of listening and understanding, so that's how we'll be able to hear all of each other. It's not just, the women supporting the men, but the men supporting the women by doing what they're supposed to do. That's what I said before. It's not your guys' job anymore. I think that's where they have to create that allyship of okay, this is men's work. Okay, and being able to lift up men. That's why we lift up the men who are doing the work, so that they could create a bigger platform, right? So finding those men who are doing the work and lifting them up so they could do the work. Just like literally the same exact thing of me showing up to a missing and murdered Indigenous woman, and all the girls say, "Hey, come up and speak, Damen." No, I'd prefer her because she's actually lived this life and she's a survivor, so I'll have her go talk, right? Yeah. So how do we lift up the men who have the stories, who are working on these things? That's it. That's where it is. It doesn't have to be women-led. Women could consult and will listen, but like I said, it has to be men who are relatable and men who men could connect with. Because that's the biggest part, is disarming men.
And I work. Every day takes some work.
What role do culture and traditional practices play in men's health and wellness? I understand that was kind of a focus of that Juno men's healing thing.
Well, we wanted to learn how to, prepare a seal and everything and do all the things that go with it. But when we look back traditionally, like I said before, we had those things taken from us, hunting and fishing. So there was a big generation that lost it, but a lot of men slipped through the cracks that still had it, right? Imagine if we never had those roles taken, how many of our young men would be hunting and fishing today, right? So there's very few slipped through the cracks, started teaching, and that's what happened as generation. It became a lost art generation by generation. And I'm very fortunate, we're fortunate, things still being taught, thank God, is because we have all these resources we're putting behind cultural and stuff. But there's kids aren't being taught the traditional way by the uncles, by how it was. Because I remember going out with my uncles, beach sanding and stuff and hunting. They had their case of Budweiser and whatnot, right? But they were badass. We were up at 4. We were out there slaying sockeye. We were out hunting, hiking mountains. I saw all of these things from a young age. I was up checking the smokehouse at 3 a.m. when I'm a little kid. Having to do all the preparation, having to go have the tired nights and experience those. Where a lot of young people aren't being taught those things. So in particular, our men, same thing. Because we base a lot of value on hunting and fishing now. So a lot of men who never learn those things, there's also bitterness and resentment because they never taught how to hunt, never taught how to fish. If I'm a man, I can't even take care of myself if I can't hunt, if I can't fish, right? If I don't know how to clean a fish, I don't know if I don't know how to do these things, So that's the biggest part is that's where that confidence comes from,
And I work. Every day takes some work.
I remember when men would come to our boys would come over here growing up, you're not from here, bro. You know what I mean? You're not from here. Oh, my family's so and so. You're not from here. Yeah. You don't live here. Yeah. This is Heidelberg, right? So, just having that. And I remember a good example of that, of the lateral oppression is there was this guy, right? He was my cousin. We grew up together. I think I might have told you about this. So we grew up together and everything, but talk about my best friend Claude, and Claude, that's Claude. Yeah. So we grew up together as the best man. That's my brother, right? My best friend. He was a successful wrestler. Went on and wrestled in college. He has a business degree. That's my guy, right? This cousin was always trying to fight me and Claude. Always. Every opportunity he just pick fights with us. So months back, right? His son was in my dance group. So I felt very compelled to make sure because there was 3 single mothers in my dance group, right? All their boys were right on the cusp, 10, 11, 12, right? Those really crucial years, right? So, okay, I really have to work with these young men more than just this dance group. I'm going to spend time with them. I have to be, take that role, assume that position with them, right? So I hear from his mom that his dad's coming into town, right? Okay. My cousin is coming into town.
He's going to beat you guys up.
So he's coming into town, and something told me we haven't probably spoke once in the last decade, right? Somebody told me just reach out to him. And it's because of that connection to the kid, right? Mm-hmm. Someone said reach out to him, picked him up. Yeah, so I picked him up, and the kid and his son, right? Picked them up. We went and I got them groceries, dropped them off, put up the stuff upstairs. My cousin comes down, gets in the car. We talk for a couple minutes. I'm just I forgive you, man. You're more valuable than your biggest mistake, dude. At the end of the day, he started bawling his eyes out, and he's just the reason I was mean to you and Claude, and I always want to fight you because I felt like you guys were getting all these opportunities, and I wasn't. You guys left to Edgecombe. Claude started becoming a statewide wrestler. You found basketball, So that's what I realized. That's that oppression is so many men are so much in competition with each other from such a young age that that's that crabs in the bucket. We start trying to pull each other down. We start trying to influence each other negatively. Start introducing each other to alcohol and drugs. All my boys, and that's what I tell young people, is that if your boys are offering you drugs and alcohol, those aren't your boys, And at the end of the day, that's what the conversation I always emphasize. Like, you have to surround yourself. That's healing. That's making the right. Like, you got to surround yourself with people like who have your best interests.
What do you think Native men need to hear to work through some of these issues, and who do they need to hear it from?
Ooh, that's a good one. And that's the thing, is I don't want to seem like I'm the expert or anything. I just have, like I said, I've been engaging with a lot of men, and I've seen breakthroughs. But what has worked for me in particular is a lot of our men have so much resentment towards their parents and the people who have hurt them. That's the hardest part, is forgiveness. One, men first and foremost have to be told that, like, just like I said, that's like you said, that's a good segue, is like me emphasizing like you're far more important than your biggest mistake. For example, this guy that I went to a workshop with him, and he was talking about when he visits a prison, he goes right to the sex offenders unit because nobody else will see them, right? So hurt people, nobody else will see them. They've been literally banished from everything in life, right?
Yeah, they're like the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, what happened to them? Men need to be told that they're valued and encouraged to heal. The biggest thing is we have to forgive ourselves. That's the hardest part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start addressing all the things where I've hurt people. And the more I learn about how much I've hurt people, it's going to scare the hell out of me, right? A lot of men aren't mentally strong enough to go there right now. So that's the thing, is like how is inviting them to the table and having those conversations and just encouraging them, encouraging men to heal, encouraging men to find outlets, encouraging men to find coping, encouraging men to attend circles, not deeming them and telling them to go, but hey, I heard about this, but gradually having that conversation, not coming from a place of, hey, go do this, you need to do this, but hey, looks like a good opportunity, I think that's everybody. Everyone could be encouraging somehow. I was just at a suicide prevention conference last week, speaking to youth. Tell your uncles you love them. Tell your dad that you care about them. Tell your father they're doing a good job. There's a lot of guys out there who are struggling, who feel like they're not doing enough because they don't have a good job. And there's men out there who are struggling to take care of their families. And just by telling them that they're doing a good job, but just by communicating them that, hey, I see that you're working hard. You're not going underappreciated. You're not going undervalued, because that's the hard thing, is like men we're driven by ego, but our ego is driven by how much value do we feel like we're worth. And that's by us doing the things that we're naturally want to do, providing for our kids, taking care of our children, taking care of our loved ones, looking after our community. If we're constantly told that we're worthy of doing those things, and those things are communicated with everybody, and not, like I said, not coming from a place of you can do this and this, it has to be a normalized conversation. I think that's the biggest thing. It has to be a normalized conversation, and finding ways to communicate with men in a healthy manner, and they need to be told that they're worthy and they're valued, and they're worth healing. That's the biggest thing. A lot of men feel like, oh, I'm not even worth healing. I'm not worthy, because all this stuff has happened. I get messages all the time, all over social media, from men talking about depression, suicide, men messaging me about sexual abuse. A lot of them saying, like, I just felt like, and they're in their 30s and 40s, 50. Like, I've had 50-plus-year-olds, reach out to me, and there's like, I've held this in forever because I don't want to. It's embarrassing. I feel embarrassed. So that's the biggest thing, is telling men it's like, okay, hey, it's okay. There's no judgment, from the things that have happened, and being embarrassed because they're taken advantage of as young boys, feeling like it makes them less of a man, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's it, is that, just have to be encouraged. Men have to be encouraged to heal. They have to be told that they're worthy, that they're valued, because a lot of men, you've talked about, a lot of men are committing suicide and having suicidal tendencies because they just don't feel like they're worthy.
What would you say to other men struggling to find purpose or struggling with their health and wellness?
I tell them to think about the very difficult times in their lives. Think about the struggles, really address the struggles, address the hard times, and look in the mirror. You can't dance around it. If you want to heal, if you want to be able to treat people better, you really have to address, like, why the hell did I get here? That's all I did I started doing with a therapist, and people, some of my elders, is like just talking about these things. And it caused me to, like, just understand why I had these bad behaviors. Okay, being able to see these different aspects of why I was being bullied, of why was I such an ass to kids? Why did I start being, when I was growing as becoming a good athlete and known, why was I being an asshole to people on the way up, right? Until I got to college and I started to get a better understanding of, right? Because Archie planted all those seeds, right?